Credentialism is essentially deciding that nobody gets to do anything unless they have the credentials that you think that they need to have. Uh, in the case of the modern world, you're talking about degrees or Cisco certifications or Sigma black belts, or I'm sure you've heard a lot of these terms before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what it is, one, is a form of gatekeeping. Two, it's a form of Pavlovian training where you are taught to reach the goal of this credential. You're not actually learning anything. You don't ever actually learn anything. You just work toward that credential until you get that credential.
So you're saying it's hoop jumping.
It's hoop jumping. It is hoop jumpery.
That's the grunt term for that. Is
Yeah.
Listen, how many times in our military career did they put hoops that we had to jump through just to get shit done?
All of them.
It's insane. It's insane. And here's another thing that annoys me about this whole credentialism bullshit. Back in the day when I used to do VA loans for half the country when I was with Chase Manhattan, I talked to about 30 vets a day. And on many occasions, and this one, rings a bell, individual 13 years active duty. All right. 11 of those years, he was a CID agent. So he did all kinds of investigations and what have you for the military. And everyone on post is a trained killer and they all have access to weapons. He decides he needs to get out because he's chasing his divorced wife and his child. That's very common for active duty guys to get out to chase their children.
Happened to me.
He could not get a job in law enforcement in any way, shape, or form because he didn't have certain credentials. Even though he did the job for real for over a decade, he didn't have the credentials, thus the experience to do it on the civilian side. He worked in a metal shop as a machinist. What the fuck is going on?
Well, here's the funny part.
Uh-huh.
A lot of kids these days are starting to realize that the trades are the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
I know a girl, for example, she's the sister of a girl who works at the party store where I'll pick up a six from time to time. At 18, she got her welding certificate. She's 20 and she's buying a house because she stayed at home with mom and dad while working for 2 years and racked up all of her money from her $65,000 a year welding job at the age of 19 and is just going to put cash down.
Well, Cara is 3 classes away from getting her welding certificate as well.
That's awesome.
So
working in a machine shop isn't that big of a deal. But I hear you on the guy being CID. I mean, I held a TSSCI security clearance. I've got all kinds of crazy skills. I'm a top-notch analyst, and my military record shows that. I'm all the way to the top of the ladder in just under 10 years. That's
because
hard to do.
7 or 8 languages.
Because I'm very good at languages. Yes. I grew up with multiple languages in my family, so it's easy for me to learn languages.
But you can't math.
I cannot math.
Yeah.
Do not ask me to math. I cannot math. But that's why a lot of people in Europe speak different languages. They grow up with French, Belgian, Italian,
German.
Yeah. It's there all the time, so it's easy for you to learn. I had the same thing. I had French, I had Irish, I had English all in my family all the time. But anyway, I get out of the military and I can't get a job anywhere, even though I've got one of the highest rated background checks you can have with a top secret security clearance. My credentials aren't good enough. They're not the credentials that the Bolsheviks want you to have, the ones that control big corporate industry, the education system. And as I learned later on when I worked at a Hollywood law firm, Hollywood, if you don't have the right credentials, you can't get onto any of the like production or film crews or any of that stuff. Actors is a different thing entirely.
I got you.
That's something else. But the industry itself, there's a lot of money to be made there.
Well,
but if you don't have the credentials, you can't play.
It's basically the credentials are a key to the gate to get you on the other side, but they only allow certain people to walk through that gate. And they're doing it legally because they're technically not discriminating against you because of race, color,
starting
sex.
To get shot down.
It is now.
Affirmative action got canned, but the universities are just finding other ways around that. This is just point blank fact. Deal with it. I don't care if you call me istophobe igot. I don't care. Most of the good medical programs, most of the good law programs, at most of what were once the good universities, less and less so, you cannot get in if you are a straight white male.
No.
Can't get in. They won't take you. There's I think it's Northern in Illinois, in Chicago, the really good school in Chicago.
I'm not familiar with that.
Blatantly put out a press release that said they were not going to accept any white male students into the law program or the medical program or a couple of other different programs.
They need to get sued.
It's gatekeeping.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's kind of why we're fucked. We have all these people in these high positions that were allowed through the gate because they had the credentials and the bullshit classes or whatever you want to call it. So they have the right mindset to be there, which is socialist, communist.
Yes, they're being screened.
Yes.
The military is now that way too.
Yes.
You couldn't move up the ranks in the military after a certain point without specific credentials, but now it's even worse.
It is unbelievable. Like, first of all, I always had a dislike for officers ever since I was a private in the military. And as I went through my 33 years of service, the officer quality went down because of the way that they were taught what to think and not how to think.
Yes.
And generals, fuck those guys. They are all backstabbing, throat cutting pieces of shit who have, learned how to butt dart other people, and they
butt dart people,
and they used to have, they're used to having the, getting a mouth hug with a head bobs to get things done. So if you don't play those games, you're not going to be able to go up the ranks. That's one of the main reasons I never got promoted to sergeant major, because I fell on my sword in Iraq. And I had the sergeant major of the Army actually look me in the eye when I was at the 100-year Army Reserve reenlistment ceremony and say, I'll never make E9. And that was Sergeant Major of the Army Preston.
Really?
Yes.
He looked you in the eye and
shook my hand and said, you're never going to make E9 again. And I was never put on the list ever after that.
Wow. You weren't in the club.
No, but if I run into him, I'll beat the fuck out of that son of a bitch.
Okay.
Just saying.
I'm okay with that. I knew probably 3 good officers in my entire time in the military. We are wandering off down the rabbit hole.
Yes, we are.
Yet again, though.
But this is credentialism. This is how it affects whole organizations.
Yes, that is correct.
It has ruined the military.
Yes.
People are not enlisting because it's a huge fucking clusterfuck. I wrote a whole essay on this and put it on LinkedIn about 2.5 years back. It's, I don't know, like 11 pages long or something. It's unbelievable.
LinkedIn is useless anyway. Nobody reads anything on LinkedIn.
I know. I just put up there because I needed to, blow off some steam.
That's fine. That's fine. I put up a thing on stovepiping and like 3 people read it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Stovepiping is a topic for another time. That's not for here. So along with the trades that we were talking about, going into welding and stuff like that, I have one of the reasons I talked to Pop about doing this subject tonight is I talked to a guy who was a cook for 40 years. He's been cooking for 40 years. Restaurants won't hire him as a chef because he hasn't been to culinary school.
That's so
but
stupid.
They'll hire a 22-year-old who has been to culinary school. And here's this guy. He's in his late 50s. He's been cooking for 40 years. He's run kitchens. They won't hire him.
He needs to start his own restaurant then.
That takes a lot of money.
I know.
It takes a lot of money. And he's already past the prime age to do something like that because it takes a lot of energy as well.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I've expedited in the window of a big hotel. Dude, there's so much to do in a kitchen. So guys like that who have the experience, they can't get hired. Again, with the gatekeepers, that's how they control who gets in and out. They don't care what kind of experience you've got. Your experience is irrelevant.
Also, they use that excuse. If you're not the right fit, they'll look at you and go, well, you don't have enough experience. So which is it? Either I have the credentials or the experience, but you can tell that they don't want you because you're probably the wrong skin color and you have the wrong thing hanging between your legs.
That's true also. It's a way for them to control access. Absolutely. It's particularly virulent in academia. I have a copy of Virgil's Aeneid, the story of the refugees from Troy after the whole Trojan horse incident and their journey to Italy via Carthage in North Africa. And it is a 1924 copy of the Aeneid, obviously in book form.
Yep.
At the beginning of it, it covers the credentials, well, not the credentials, the requirements just to be seen to apply for Harvard in 1925. You had to know Ovid, Sophocles, Socrates, Plato, Virgil, Julius Caesar, and you had to be able to recite passages from all of these things. This was to get into the Greek program at Harvard in 1925. Another guy was talking online the other day. He found a textbook, math textbook from 1930s. And he said his grandfather used to be able to solve the equations in this textbook with a slide rule. He couldn't do it with a calculator.
Yep.
With a scientific calculator.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why one of the things I roll my eyes at, people say, oh, we could never get to the moon. We never had the tech. Nobody knows how to do the math anymore. They did that math on chalkboards.
Yeah, well,
with slide rules.
They did that movie about that one colored woman who did a lot of those higher level equations to make the moon landings possible.
That's not accurate, though.
I know.
That's
I'm just saying they made a movie about it.
I know. It's not accurate.
Okay.
That's a little bit of credentialism there, too. At any rate, what I'm getting at is the intelligence level from our schools has been dumbed down so hard. And credentialism is the only thing that they care about. Your tests, your SAT, your ACT, the MCATs, all of that stuff.
Yeah,
all they want is to see you take a test so that they can see that you will comply, so they'll let you up to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing attorneys with degrees from Brown who can't write a sentence.
Well, this is what's happening. All right. I'm walking around after I got dinged in the head with an IQ somewhere around 120 to 130. Okay. I've run into people who have master's degrees that are blithering fucking idiots.
Blatantly idiots.
They literally, jumped through all the hoops, took the tests, whatever, taught what to think and not how to think, and they think they're actually smarter than me, and because of said degree. But when you speak to them or interact with them or have, if they have to figure something out on a dime, they just can't do it. They don't have the imagination, the flexibility, and they just stagnate in place.
Yeah.
It's very common.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that kind of person in the professional world. I was shocked when I returned from overseas. I left the country basically in 1996 and didn't come back until 2005 because my MOS was a shortage MOS, and anytime they needed one of us, they'd just grab you from wherever you are. Hi, you're in Korea, I know, but we really need you to go down here to Okinawa so that you can get on this boat here that'll take you to a boat that takes you to the PI. And when you're done there, by the way, we've got this thing going on in North Africa. And you're like, can I go home? I just want to go home, man.
I got you.
But anyway, I got back to the States and everybody was an idiot. It was like I had walked into the movie Idiocracy.
Yeah. I don't get it. I literally don't get it.
In the span of 10 years.
Well, when you just to get to walk across the stage to get a Green Beret.
Yeah.
They give you several IQ tests in the Q course and in
and the MMBQ.
In Special Forces Assessment. I took 2 IQ tests.
Yep.
And then I did it again when I was in, going through 18 Bravo. I'm a gun bunny.
Yeah.
But if you don't score a certain level, you're automatically just gone. They just call you in and go, hey, you fucked up a test.
This is real simple, and I used to look at the freaking admin guys and infantry guys are so stupid. I said, you don't hand an idiot a rocket launcher.
Correct.
You hand him a Skillcraft pen. And the admin guys would be like,
it's fucked up, man.
Just do my paperwork. Sorry, Sergeant.
That's pretty much how it goes.
You don't hand an idiot a rocket launcher, period.
But we're handing idiots the keys to the country now.
The idiots have had the keys to the country for some time.
I know.
Unfortunately.
But we have idiots, working at Boeing and other aircraft factories, the diversity hires, and we're seeing how much that's working out. We're having all kinds of technical problems with the airlines. And guess what? If you're up in the air and all it takes is one part, the critical component to break or fail, and guess what? You are road pizza that's on fire.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the meat caser box.